Hey guys, welcome back. In the last video, I introduced you to my new data management tool called Nemo, which, among other things, allows us to lay out the mission logic using visual scripting. And here we have the node graph for the mission we looked at last time, and it describes essentially the player driving through these gates here, jumping through the frame and through the second gate. And we went through how that sequence of events is managed using this node graph, global variable sets, and a little bit of scripting here in the level. So if you haven't seen that video, go watch that first, because today we will take what we learned last time and create a slightly more interesting mission. And why do we do that? Well, first of all, I am of course kind of excited about showing what this system can do, but I also want to actually verify, if you will, that the system is up to the task, because Nemo is still a very new tool. It's only about 3 or 4 days old, and I haven't really done anything significant with it yet, so it'll be interesting to see how well this pans out. So I was thinking here, what would be an interesting thing to build with Nemo at this point, and I think we'll concentrate on this gate here. So I didn't mention it in the previous video, but already some time ago I properly modeled this outer wall here for this lift station, and we have this gate which consists of 2 pieces. You can actually control these now through script, so you can open the gate and close the gate by running some scripts. And I think this, while this is not going to be a mission in the final game, it's something that we can still test out Nemo pretty well in a scenario that might be part of some game, to see how it works. And the way we will do that, I think, is this. We will use this vehicle here as the player vehicle. The player will drive up to the gate, and the gate will be closed as it is currently. And if you remember from the video on the mini game that we created, we have these things called diamonds here. Let's make that distance something like 2 so that we don't create it inside the ground. And these diamonds actually contain a trigger, which means you can pick them up and they can call something. They can send a script message or call some other script functionality when they get picked up. And I think we will use these as a very gamey way to open this gate. You need to essentially collect all of the diamonds outside the gate, and then the gate will open. And to provide a little bit of guidance to the player so that they know what they need to do when they encounter this mission, we will use the characters. I briefly mentioned characters last time in Nemo. We have this horribly rough user interface here for setting up a character. The characters in Nemo are essentially like people, or I guess they could be like robots or something, but they're like actual characters in the game world, so to speak. We have only one here currently, called the narrator. So their name is just narrator and narrator. We have this UI color here, which you can choose a color so that if you have subtitles, for example, then you could have different characters' lines show up in different colors. And you could, I guess, have like portraits and things like that if you have that for characters. But just as a very simple base version of a character, we have first name, last name, and UI color. And in Nemo missions, or during Nemo missions, characters can actually say things, which we'll get into in just a bit. I think we'll use that as well. So let's get started. And I apologize in advance for my voice. It sort of sounds like I swallowed a bag of gravel, even though my cold got pretty well. Some weeks ago, my voice doesn't seem to have really recovered from that yet. Okay, so how do we begin this thing? There's a folder here called Dev Missions, which I think is probably the correct place for the mission we want to create, because it's going to be a development mission. Let's name it Gate Mission, right? And inside this Gate Mission folder, we'll create a mission, and we'll create a variable set. And we'll just call this variables, like so. And we didn't really look through the node palette last time. It's perhaps not that surprising to see these nodes here if you watched the videos on Timbre, my audio engine, which uses a pretty large set of the same nodes. Actually, the logic nodes, the math nodes, they are the same. These are very typical node graph logic nodes that you have in here. But we also have a few Nemo specific nodes, like Start Mission, for example, is a good example of a Nemo specific node, or these global variable nodes as well. But yes, we have a start mission, and then something happens, and we end with the mission completed. In between these two, we put the logic that we want the mission to have. So what should actually happen here? Let's have a look here. We have this guy, and this guy comes with a script. So script 1. This sets the single player avatar to this test vehicle. That's probably good. We could perhaps create a new layer. We'll call this layer Gate Mission as well. And Gate Mission is not set to auto load, so we need to specifically load this mission, which is typically how I do these things. You can just play around in the level, and you don't actually load the mission unless you explicitly do that. So let's create a Nemo script here. And Nemo script, like I mentioned in the last video, is essentially a script object, but with the added ability that it can actually control the Nemo runtime. So read and write global variables and start missions currently, and more to come at a later date. All right, and also inside this we will want some trigger to actually start the mission, right? So the player will come driving along the road, and they should be reasonably large, I think. Something like this. So when they reach this is maybe a little unnecessarily large. Let's make it a little shorter, just so it's easier to see. When they reach this point of the road, we can move it closer to the junction even. This is where the mission will start. And you can obviously see here that a player might just drive past it. And indeed that is the case. I'm not really trying to make this sort of waterproof in this video. I'm just concentrating on the actual scriptability. But yes, in an actual production level, I would have to be very, very careful to place this volume or volumes in such a way that the player can't actually drive past them. We can call this start trigger, And when the object entered, now we want to actually check that it is the correct object that we want. And the object is this, so it's dev junction test vehicle 1. So when an object enters, if the object equals level objects dev junction test vehicle 1. In this case, we want to start the mission. Oh no, actually no, that's not what we want to do. Yeah, we can't start the missions in this because this is a trigger, it doesn't have access to Nemo. What we want to do is we want to send a message. So self send message, and the receiver is level objects. We will have to write without any IntelliSense, and then we get gate mission and script. And the message we want to send is start. And now here, this is the Nemo script. In here we can actually start the mission itself. So if message is start, and this is where we can actually start it. So call self start mission, and we'll get the path out of Nemo. So copy path. Okay, there's going to be a slight cut there because I ran into an issue where I couldn't actually copy this path. Nemo just kept crashing. Apparently the clipboard was somehow occupied. But now it works and we can get back to what we were doing. So now when we receive the start message, we start this mission, and I think we could perhaps at this point just add like an entry point to ourselves here, so that we can test out this thing. We'll add a new function here, and let's call this gate mission, and it will set this car here as the single player avatar, and then it will load the layer with our new mission on it. False. So the second parameter is whether or not to load it in a blocking manner, and it doesn't need to be blocking. So now we can run gate mission, and we appear here, and now we should see. Oh, actually, this won't work yet because this mission doesn't really do anything. So I think we need to add something here. Let's add like a 5-second delay between. So now we should see the start mission message, and then 5 seconds later we should see the mission completed message. Gate mission is the name. We can actually even make this easier for ourselves. We just run it here. So gate mission, like so. And now if we drive into the trigger, the mission starts and completes. That's fine. This diamond here is probably on the wrong layer, so I'm gonna remove that. Okay, so speaking of diamonds, we will want a few of them. Let's not be super crazy with the amount, but let's create a few of them. We can maybe make the trigger shape. Let's make it like a sphere, and that looks all right. And what we want these diamonds to do is whenever something collides with them, we want the object to notify the script in the same way as the start trigger does. But this time we want it to be something like diamond collected. Something like this. And we can add it here as another message handler. Like so. And now that we have the script set up and the shape adjusted, we can just copy this around. So let's maybe make like 4 of them or something like that. This is not really relevant to the actual scripting the mission, but now we have a couple of these, or 4, that we need to collect to get the gate to open. And I think we should have most things now actually set up. The only thing that we still need to do is we have this gate, and the gate has a control script, and you can see here open main gate, close main gate. So these are the things that we actually need to, we can just copy paste that whole thing into our control script here. I don't think we'll need the on create or on destroy, but let's copy that function there. And we can, for example, just as a test here, oh, what do I have? Oh, I'm missing an if. Just as a test here, now that we collect the first of these diamonds, the front gate should actually open immediately. So, yeah, look at that. Look at this. Now we can enter the base. Cool. All right, so let's get rid of that. We don't want that to be the way it works. Now we can start laying out the mission properly. So, when the player drives along the road and reaches this point, they will notice that, oh no, the gate is closed. So at this point, I think some character in the game could perhaps comment on the fact that the gate is closed. Let's actually create a new character here, only for this one mission. And we call this character something very unremarkable. Let's call him Joe. Or maybe John, and then we can call him John Doe. John Doe, and the color for John Doe is going to be a nice, what do we make them? A nice green. So that's John Doe's color, all right? And now we can start to use some of these new mission nodes that we have here. The first thing that I'm going to do is to use a delay. I mentioned in the previous video that I'm going to talk a lot about delays when it comes to scripting like this. When the mission ends, if you immediately show the or when the mission starts, when the player sees the mission started message, if you immediately get something other on the screen to read, like a subtitle, then there will be a little bit of information overload. So let's wait a couple of seconds before John starts actually talking here. So delay of 2 seconds, and then we add some mission dialogue. So here we can have characters narrator or dev missions gate mission John. You can see here that the colors, UI color for these characters are their name is colored using their color, is what I'm trying to say. So now we have the dialogue line, whatever the character should say. So I guess they should say something like, "Oh no, the gate is closed." There's a field here for the voiceover. If at some point we have like an audio clip to go with this. And I should mention at this point that we're currently hard coding just these English texts into these fields. A pretty big missing feature from Nemo currently is localization support. So in the final version, we won't actually be putting these texts in here. Rather, we will just be be selecting some ID for a localized line and assigning that instead. But the whole localization system is, I have it pretty well working for my earlier game Project Slide, but it's not done for Nemo yet. So currently we're just hard coding English lines in here. And voiceover can be empty. Over and duration is, that's probably fine. We don't need to mess with that. All right, so John says that, oh no, the gate is closed. And then maybe have a small delay. John thinks about what to do next, essentially. And let's maybe move this guy over here, and we can continue from there. And John can say something like, perhaps if you tried collecting these diamonds, or something like that, to sort of hint to the player that, hey, you have these diamonds lying around here. Well, what about if you actually collected them? And so at this point, I think we should have some guidance. Maybe we should actually have guidance to begin with. Let's add this thing here. So immediately when the mission begins, you get some guidance. You get an initial objective to enter the base, something like that. So the player immediately has some objective, right? And then we get, oh no, the gate is closed. Perhaps if you tried collecting these diamonds. At this point, I think it makes sense to update the guidance text. Collect the diamonds like this. And right, now we need to somehow keep track of these diamonds. So I think, first of all, let's add an integer here that we can call diamonds total. And let's set it to 4, because we had 4 diamonds. And rather than having to update this in one place, if we change the number in the actual level, you might just actually compare it directly to number 4. But I prefer to do it like this, have a one place where we can actually get the total amount of diamonds. Another one is probably diamonds collected, which will have an initial value of 0, right? And now we can start to actually track the number of diamonds, and we do that with a wait for condition node. I think that is probably the correct one. So we can do an int compare, and we want the number of collected diamonds to be equal to the number of total diamonds. So read an integer, let's put that there and take another one. And so diamonds total needs to equal diamonds collected, right? When we have collected all of them, we can continue with the mission. All right, and at this point, Joe should probably, or not Joe, but John, should probably comment on the fact that, yeah, you collected all of them. But if that happens the very millisecond you've actually done it, it will feel bad. So let's have like a maybe 1 second delay is enough here. We'll do another dialogue here, and this time he will go like, "Yay, that did it. The gate is opening, or something like this. Yeah, I think we're pretty close to our to being mission complete. Although we need to set a few more things. Maybe we should use the narrator for something. I'm gonna add like maybe a 1 second delay here, and then have the narrator say something to make sure that all of these things actually work. And then once the narrator is done, like a 2 second delay, and then complete the mission. Something like this. Not sure if this is going to feel good. This is something that we'll have to figure out. If the pacing is sort of all right. Now, of course, the one thing that is missing from this is to actually open the gate, right? So let's add a Boolean variable here called open gate. It's initially false, and I think we'll add another one as well, which is called opened gate. So open gate is set to true when we get to here basically. So let's write a Boolean global variable, and we want open gate, not opened gate. Here you can see that we can write to any global variable in the database, not just the ones that belong to this variable set, but we want the open gate to be set to true, and the Boolean value that we want to write to it is true, like this. And we run this directly off the condition. So immediately when we have collected all of the diamonds, we actually trigger this open gate action. But it takes a second for John to realize that, oh, that's happening. So that just makes it feel like a little more human, that things happen, and then maybe that can even be like 2 seconds. I think that might feel better that way. Right, so we have open gate and we have opened gate. And open gate is set from here. Opened gate is something that the script will need to use probably. So we can do something here like self write bool, and we need the path to the set, which I will copy from Nemo in a bit. Opened gate is the name and the value is true. Let's go copy the value of the path to the variable set. Actually, maybe we can do something like this. We can do string var set is that, and then string mission is this, so we don't have to copy these strings around all the time. So variable set that, and opened gate is true. So that just marks the fact that, okay, we have actually called these, so that we don't call them over and over and over again, because that will just reset the animation. So rather than opening like this, they will just sort of stay here because they will be sort of unable to play their animation to the end, which is not good. Okay, so now that we have this diamond collected message here, what we want to do is read the previous value. So self read int, and it's bar set, and we'll see what the name was. Name is diamonds collected. I mentioned in the previous video that I'm not a fan of this fact that you have to copy these strings around. They should really be sort of auto-completed things, but haven't got there yet because, like I've said multiple times, this is still very early days for this whole system. But basically what we want to do here is increase the value of diamonds collected by 1 every time this message is sent. So now we should be pretty close to having this working. All of this is fine, all of this is fine. We wait for the condition, and this should be triggered as well. Now we trigger we write true to this open gate boolean, but we don't read it anywhere yet. So that's one more thing that we'll have to figure out. And I think that can be most easily accomplished by simply polling, at least for now. So let's do like a void on tick. And since this object is only created when this actual mission layer is loaded, it's not gonna sit there in the background ticking forever and ever. It's only ever ticking as long as the mission layer is loaded. So it's all right, I think. Okay, so bool open gate. What was the name of it's open gate. Okay. So self read bool var set open gate. And we also need to read this opened gate. And we only want to call this open main gate if we should open the gate like this and we haven't opened it already, like so. That should be good. Let's see if we can build that, and we can. Right. So the one thing I want to check here now is that onTick is actually called, because we go here to Nemo script component. This is a Zig component. And I want to make sure that, yes, basically this thing. So in the tick method for this component, you need to call self-context call script onTick to make sure that the angel script onTick method is called. And it is. So that's good. This should work. Did we forget something? I'm not sure. Let's have a look at what we've got here. Make this a little more compact. I think this looks pretty good, but I think any issues will be apparent when we actually run this. So we can then just do build project, and we can see it finished without any errors, 4.4 kilobytes. So it writes it into this Nemo binary file, which is then read by the game. And yeah, I think we can try this out. So we'll execute our script. Oh no, the gate is closed. Perhaps if you tried collecting these diamonds. Alright, let's do that. I'll collect the diamonds. And oh, yeah, I think I forgot something. What we want to do here is call destroy self on these guys when we actually hit them. Yeah, that's important. Otherwise, it's not obvious to you if you actually hit it or not. All right. So let's try that again. All right. The gate is closed. Let's, yeah, now we can see, now we're actually sort of removing them from the world. Connect the diamonds, yes. We're collecting it, and the last one. Hey, look at that. Yeah, that did it. The gate is opening. And narrator, oh, narrator, what? The narrator doesn't care, he's just silent. Why are you silent? It's because we didn't tell you to say anything. Okay, what should the narrator say? Narrator should say narrator things. As if by magic the great metal doors of the base opened up. Something like that. Very dramatic and narrator-like. Okay, so that's cool. That worked almost exactly how I hoped it would. So I think there's one thing that we could add still to this thing, which is many games that do these kinds of missions. They have some additional guidance, if you will, triggered if the player doesn't seem to understand what they need to do, right? So I think this place here in this mission, in this flow, this is where the player can get sort of stuck if they don't understand what to do. And so I think we should have perhaps John tell the player something if they don't collect any diamonds for a while. So let's do like a John here, and a dialogue line could be something like, "Come on, the diamonds. This is taking forever," or something like super annoying. And of course, they shouldn't say this unless it's quite apparent that the player isn't doing what they should be doing. So let's put this behind a delay, and we can. Wait a minute. Here is where we actually want to spin off this logic. Yeah. So as you can see here from this place, and also from this place here in the node graph, we can actually run things in parallel. So this system is based on Sprinter, which is a node graph composition and execution library that I've created, and it's the same thing that runs the node graphs in the Timbre audio editor, which I've shown in a previous video. And there's no multi-threading or anything like that going on here. The system just splits up the updates of these nodes into small chunks so that it executes these nodes in a non-blocking fashion. So as we are coming down the path like this, you have something called a cursor that is executing these nodes. The cursor enters this mission guidance and then continues on to this wait for condition. At this point it will spin off another cursor that starts running in this direction, and then you have essentially two cursors executing things. Here again you have another one of these cases where we create a new cursor which simply writes this global Boolean variable. Then it will actually end, so that cursor is stopped, but the other ones will keep running. Unless you stop them all, which is something that the mission completed node does. So then the node graph doesn't execute anymore. Alright, so if after, shall we say 10 seconds, the player still hasn't picked up a single diamond, then let's have John be annoying and complain. So how do we do that? Well, we can do basically this, but slightly different. So we want a an int compare, and we want the diamonds collected. If it is equal to 0, then we'll put in a branch here. The branch will go between these two guys. So only the true case continues. So we will always go into this delay node, and after 10 seconds we enter this branch node, which checks is diamonds collected equal to 0. If it is, we exit through the true pin into this, otherwise it's false, which means that the player has started collecting diamonds and we don't need to actually notify them of anything. So this should be what we need. This should be what we need. So let's see what happens. Right, so we have a little bit of waiting here to do. First we have the, oh no, the gate is closed. Perhaps if you tried collecting the diamonds. And now we need to actually wait for 10 seconds. Come on, the diamonds. Alright, that's cool. So now let's just make sure that the other path works as well. We will just start collecting these things immediately. So let's not collect all of them, but all but one. Bloop. And we have the last one there. Let's make sure that 10 seconds has passed. Kind of looks like nothing is happening, so I'd say it works as we wanted. And yay, that did it. The gate is opening, and then the narrator should go, as if by magic, the great metal doors, blah 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 blah. And mission complete. So that's pretty cool, even though it's not really sort of narratively canon. I don't think there will be any diamonds in the game, but it demonstrates that this clearly does work, and that creating levels like this is definitely possible. Remains to be seen how scalable this is. Like, this is already sort of starting to look a little messy. I haven't done visual scripting enough, perhaps, to really get sort of like a style for how to do these things, but I think this can probably be cleaned up quite a bit if you just like start laying this out in a bit more organized manner. And you could even, of course, make it so that you can nest things like this, nest sort of contained pieces of this node graph under another node, so you can have like hierarchical node graphs. It should make things even more awesome. But at least I think this looks significantly nicer than trying to implement a system like this, even a simple mission like this, completely in script. Especially if you have logic that sort of at certain points, for example, like need to go back to like a previous place. It gets really messy quite quickly. And here you can sort of almost like read this as if someone is telling you that, okay, the mission starts, and then you get the guidance to enter the base, and then the person says, oh no, and blah 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 blah. So it's almost reads like someone is sort of like laying out these steps one by one to you, and it's fun. It's fun. So I think that's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did actually creating this thing. It's really quite fun for me to see this working this well, because I haven't really battle tested this all that much, like I said. And now that we can actually create these almost like mini stories in the level, I think this should open up a whole new sort of dimension to the development. We can start fleshing out the gameplay properly in this mission, and or in this level, in the area. So that should be a lot of fun. Anyway, that's everything I have for you today. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any comments or questions or suggestions or feedback. And leave a like, subscribe, do all the things that YouTube wants you to do. And I thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.